Lord Captain, there's an emergency at the officer's deck. Vigdis's voice is quaking slightly. Numerous victims, loss of communication. The voidsmen report warp voices filling the compartments. But this is not a warp breach. This is the Xenos you took aboard at Janus. He's gone mad and went on a rampage. I have two fairly reliable witness accounts. According to one, the Xenos suddenly assaulted the crew members, gutting them seemingly at random. The others claim that there are survivors who barricaded themselves in the adjacent compartments. The enforcers managed to isolate the raving Xenos in a dead end, but they've been unable to pacify him so far. What will be your orders? Such are the consequences of ill-considered actions born out of a lack of faith in the God Emperor's laws. I am ready to stop this accursed Xenos' rampage personally and repay every life he has taken. The Vox channel relays a thin sigh full of realization and fright. Ilantok, I know what the reason behind Murazai's madness is. Please, I must accompany you to the compartment. I will help you deal with the Dark One. Your light, explain your words. Do you remember what happened during my very first voyage aboard your ship, when I found myself beyond the veil? The servants of She Who Thirst descended upon the fragile shell that is protecting your vessel from the outside horrors, and managed to break through. The soul of an Eldari shines like a beacon in the night, drawing the gaze of Salanthresh and stoking her thirst. The ways of Ashrani keep us safe from her claws, but the Dark Ones never sought to restrain their desires for excess and pleasure as well as for some protection against our eternal enemy. When the voices of She Who Thirsts called out to me, I found refuge in meditation. I think Marazai started feeding his withering soul instead, using the only method he knew. I am going to the officer's deck immediately. The squad of enforcers have blocked the Xenos in the dead-end corridors, waiting at the deck. I beg you to be careful, Lord Captain, and may the God Emperor watch over you. Right, not Abelard, Argenta. Let's go.
Let us not dawdle.
The body is covered in hundreds of cuts, none of which look deep enough to have ended the victim's suffering in a single blow. Somebody open the door! Open the door before he gets me! On top of a body. Oh no.
Thank Ross for my sharp senses.
The fuck? You had a plasma gun on you? An Astartes? Plasma gun? Why did you have this? Why did you have a Space Marine's plasma gun? Mind-boggling. Like that one peasant we found that had a bolt pistol one time. Absolutely baffling. Wait. Oh, he doesn't have training for plasma? That sucks. The maimed, bloodied body looks like a broken marionette lying in an unnatural position.
I always have a backup plan.
Hey there, man. Y'all doing good? The corpse is missing its eyes, and its face is horribly mutilated. Delightful. Is there anything over here? It actually just loot? Never mind. Lord Captain, God Emperor be with you, and with all of us too. The Enforcer can barely suppress the tremors running throughout his body. Only you can deal with this spawn. Permission to report, your ladyship. It started a few watches after the translation. Well, actually they say this associate of yours had been acting strangely even before that. It's as if he started hearing things. He was swiveling back and forth, barking something in his Xenos tongue. Then he grabbed his blade and sliced his hand open. His own hand. Then he suddenly howled and lunged at the people nearby. The voice of She Who Thirsts. Your light turns pale. He heard the call. Any of our kind who find themselves beyond the veil become tempting prey for Salanthresh. And your technology that protects the ship from her baleful influence cannot drown out the sound of her maddening voice. Can you see her? The officer looks behind him, glances around the deck, and then turns to you with an alarmed expression. See who, your ladyship? I see. Where is Marazai now? Who? Oh, the Xenos. He's all up there. He nods to the barricaded gate. He corralled a number of crewmen in there like groxes to a slaughterhouse. All we could hear was screams. Well, we couldn't save them, so we locked him in there so he couldn't crawl back out, unless he finds a crack to squeeze through. Who were the victims of this massacre? Anyone who could get his hands on, your ladyship. Officers, serfs, a technomat. He even attacked a servitor, although that didn't last long, he just tore its head off. The rest of them, though, the Xeno scum tortured the life out of them. You can see the color draining from the officer's face. I've heard enough. I'm heading inside. We'll unblock it right quick, your ladyship. If only there was a way to flush that fiend out without going in. He stops and pales even more. Throne's mercy, I completely forgot. The late technomat, he turned on some security systems right before he bled out. We figured if the Xenos thinks about showing his face, these systems will get him. Point is, we should go with your ladyship, with your permission. It just wouldn't be right for the Lord Captain to go in there alone. God Emperor help us all. Where is this coming from? This has never crossed your mind previously. I remember when I had to repel an entire invasion on Dragonus by myself, more or less. The officer tries his best to speak calmly, but his voice is quivering. The thought of going inside the compartment that has a death trap fills him with dread, bordering on panic.
Keep your wits about you.
Who is this? Is it the ruler of this vessel? The mistress of the lost child? Come closer. Let me get a good look at you.
I always
see.
keep my options open.
Is it Wargled? Or a trap?
Okay. Great, yeah. The wearer gains plus 25 Medicae. Each time the wearer uses a medkit, it provides an additional int agility temporary wounds. Your current ones, recoil is suppressed. Attacks apply staggered on the target. This plus 25 Medicae is a lot, but like he's already pretty fucking tanky, you know? Like, so far I ain't fucking around. Is this a Xenos check? No.
I'm
Go get it.
restless. See? Right there. Onward.
Okay.
Nothing escapes
Oh, Christ.
my sight. Cast your eye
Oh
there.
my god. This is getting a little out of hand. Do you think she can do that? I don't believe.
Carry the
Fuck.
Emperor's will as your torch.
Okay, looks like we got off easy there.
See?
Oh
Right
my
there.
god, please.
I better myself through my service. The Emperor favors me today.
This is a little absurd.
Duty prevails. Never doubt me. I better myself through
Alright,
my
tremendous.
service.
We did it.
Nothing escapes my sight.
Ugh.
The Emperor favors
Gather
me
up,
today.
gather up.
Always keep your eye on the prize.
So dutiful. Doing her command even in the middle of the cutscene. Do you think this demon is meant to be saying something every time? Like, it seems a little weird that
Rise
it
to the
hasn't
top
said
or
anything
get
after that
left
first
in the
one.
dust.
Marazai jerks his head up when you appear. His already gaunt face is tightly wrapped in pale grey, parchment-like skin. His teeth are bared feverishly, and his dark eyes have turned into two pitch-black mirrors that could show your reflection clearly if you were to gaze into them. He opens his mouth, but instead of words, an unnatural rasping hiss comes out. If this creature ever possessed intelligence, there is no sign of it left. At last. The resonant voice that has followed you on your journey through the decks sounds like it's coming from every direction, chilling you to the bone. At last we meet, my poor child. Look at him, mortal. Look at how he yearns to return to the one whose caress his kind rejects so stubbornly. Come, child, follow my voice, and my prince will grant you all the bliss and torment in the universe. Your light exclaims something in the Eldari language. The elucidator fails to process her rapid and elaborate speech. Without waiting for Marzai's response, she turns to you. My dark kin has lost himself in the fight against the pull of she who thirsts. Allow me, Elantak. However great our differences are, however desolate and depraved the dark ways may be, I cannot blind my eyes and let Salanthresh take him. The warp spawn laughs musically. Sooner or later, all of his kind will step into my embrace. The prince is patient. The prince knows that every Eldari soul is already his. The demonette's voice suddenly forces itself inside your mind. But if you let me get close to the lost child, if you lull him into letting his guard down, my prince will reward you, Ophelia. The soul of this pathetic Xenos is a small price to pay for the blessings that come with my master's favor. I will try to bring him to his senses. The Drukhari stares at you without blinking, teeth still bared, his frenzied expression frozen like a mask. You hear hissing again, this time lower and angrier than before. This unit has received a sign from the Omnissiah. Pascal points at a metal platform beneath Marzai's feet. The transfer plate on which the Xenos has so short-sightedly made his lair can be reconfigured to send a short discharge of the motive force. This unit could use it to impart a modicum of reason to this crazed creature. Look closely. Marzai half-crouched is teetering slightly, and that is the only movement you can see. His body language shows he is ready to attack, as do the blood-stained blades he is holding. Your light, you promised you would help. Your light starts talking, too quickly for the elucidator, but not for Marzai. He turns his head and watches her like a snake watches a bird. Your light takes a step, then another. You hear new inflections in her voice, melodious, almost calming. Her hands are moving in an elaborate dance of gestures as she keeps touching the spirit stone on her chest. Slowly, very slowly, your light advances towards Marzai and his bristling blades, and he remains still, seemingly entranced by her words. You carefully follow her. Look again. The Xenos is turning his head back and forth, surveying the room but still watching you. His muscles are no longer cramped stiff in a battle stance, but his face still bears a twisted expression that can either be interpreted as a wild frenzy or terror. Continue. Your light gives you a slight nod and starts speaking again. Her words filled with pain and pleading. She steps forward, then takes another step, and another. You feel as if this last step was a little too confident. Marzai's expression changes subtly, as hungering malice flashes in his eyes. Your light notices the alarming signs too, and only recoils when the blade has already cut through the air. She barely suppresses a cry and clutches her deep wound, but she does not retreat farther than a single step. No more, your light whispers faintly. He no longer heeds me. What about all that talk of the great Eldari race? If only you could see yourself now, you worthless, quivering beast. A mirage was all it took for you to soil yourself. Marzai blinks, and his eyes ignite with a familiar look of fury and wounded pride. I will rip out your tongue and make you swallow it piece by piece along with your own teeth. The air behind Marzai ripples, and you watch as the demonette faintly Faintly visible silhouette bleeds out of the air. The horrible mouth is sneering triumphantly. The large pincer is rising higher and higher. Marzai, behind you. The demonette brings her pincers down on Marzai's head and clangs against his raised blade. Marzai crouches and shoves the shrieking warp entity away from himself.
No, no, you're mine, Marzai. You're mine!
Great. We did it.
Has blessed me with new victims.
This is a lot. Marzai turns to you looking the same as ever, with the exception that you can see grayish-blue veins through his parchment-like skin, and something resembling terror in his eyes.
They're gone, Ophelia. Gone, but still lurking in the threshold. Keeping watch, I can hear their whispers. How do monkey bear them for days and days on end?
You hear genuine confusion in his voice.
You will hear these whispers every time the void vessel travels beyond the veil. Learn to accept this, find an anchor for such times, or lose yourself.
Marzai looks at your light. There's a barely noticeable shift in his expression.
The entire time that you have been here. Yes, Dark One, the entire time. With each new passage, I bolstered my spirit further, and my meditation became a stronger barrier against the tendrils of she who thirsts. I endured it. So will you if you value your soul.
The Drukhari lowers his head in thought. Then he gives your light a sidelong glance.
I should have understood from what you told me.
Marzai stops himself.
Well, no matter.
Marzai, are you sure you've regained your senses?
I never...
Marzai gnashes his teeth.
Forgot myself for a moment. Nothing more.
Your presence is causing me a great deal of grief, Xenos. Marzai's voice turns into furious hissing.
Your kind step beyond the veil with nothing but your crude technologies and prayers to a deaf god, and you expect those such as I to rely on such paltry protections from the terror of she who thirsts.
One of the enforcers lets his emotions get the better of him.
Throne's sake, Lord Captain, why are you even listening to him? That there Xenos is worse than a wild beast. How can a ship that sails in the God Emperor's light allow one of his enemies to act like he's master here?
Marzai looks at the man hungrily.
The living meat that serves you talks too much. They would, however, make for perfect playthings. He looks straight at you. I need strength in order to suffer through your oafish voyages beyond the veil. If I don't obtain a source of such sustenance, Salamthresh will only keep testing my lips.
I mean... Now, look, you are... You know... This is definitely the wrong answer morally. However... it would be still quite funny to have Marzai here. I shall grant you hunting grounds, Marzai. A bay on the lower decks. You can do whatever your heart desires down there, but you're not to leave its bounds during warp jumps. Marzai gives you a long look. The pause starts to drag on when he finally says nonchalantly, "See to it I'm not disappointed with my allotted territory. If I begin to run out of sacrifices, I think your servants will be too terrified of becoming my next plaything to perform their duties adequately." Marzai smirks. "That well-fed monkey on the ship's bridge, the factotum, I think he will solve the meat supply problem if it arises." "Your ladyship!" The enforcer tries to object, but then immediately shrinks when Marzai looks at him again. "Ophelia." Marzai runs a finger along the edge of his blade, his eyes turned on the frightened crew. "The meat is too loud." Hunger ignites in the Drukari's eyes. "Control yourself." Marzai grimaces and removes his hands from his weapons. "There's always next time, Ophelia. I will have my chance yet." Fucked up, undeniably. But, you know, he's already here. Yeah, this was something I accepted would happen when we brought him on board in the first place. You know. The wearer gains an additional stratagem ability. All allies in the combat area instantly reload their weapons after each attack made by them until the start of the wearer's next turn. Cool, but we don't fuck with that round here. Tight.
I always have a backup
Nothing
plan.
else? Alright, let's go to Dragonis then.
Lord Captain, we have visitors on the bridge seeking an audience. Your presence is required.
Okay, we didn't get very far before the next catastrophe.
Your ladyship. The high factotum bows low. Every few moments, Damrock brings a perfumed cloth to his face, but his expression remains obsequious. Members of your crew have made a request to allow them to proclaim their most profound devotion to Lord Captain. Personally, young man, if only they knew what I did on one of the lower decks mere moments ago.
A man in a worn uniform bows awkwardly. Your Highness, gracious Lord Captain, please let me speak on behalf of the whole crew and everyone, and express our gratitude to you, officially, so to speak. The kind of leader you are, the way you treat people, it's now known in every corner of the expanse. From footfall to the poorest, dirtiest, most unremarkable planet. Not on the lower decks, though, for some reason. They don't seem too fond of you. I don't know why. All praise your dedication to the human spirit and goodwill. Everyone wants to serve under your command. There's no end to the volunteers. So the other day when we were clearing out an abandoned sector, which mysteriously had a lot of blood in it, for new living quarters, we found a forgotten vault, right in the bilge of the ship, literally beneath our feet. Well, it turned out the vault had centuries-old weapons in it. They look a bit odd, but they're powerful for sure. The good tech priests helped with the assembly and consecration of the weapons, and now you can strike down your enemies with even greater might.
Your ladyship, apart from the weapons, the crew has sent one more find to the bridge as a token of its eternal gratitude. A most ancient mechanism which our tech priests have dubbed the Celestium Observatorium. Alas, its machine spirit refuses to heed their rites, which makes the device more symbolic and aesthetic than practical in purpose. Do you wish to see it? Of course. Alright, cool. The Celestium Observatorium looms over the deck. While the spirit of this ancient mechanism has gone silent forever, the words intricately inscribed on its frame can still serve as a source of resolve. A keen gaze under the darkness, a gloom with deceit, and reduces all corruption to ash. Cool. What did you give me? It doesn't look like you gave me anything, and yet you claimed there were weapons. Curious. Do I need to talk to, like, a technomad or something?
You are
Wrong one.
spoiling me with the splendor of your...
I know, yes. Alright, well... Good talk, I guess. Does that basically mean I got to Iconoclast 5? Not quite. Not even at Iconoclast 4 yet. Oh well.
Lord Captain, there's an urgent message. Our enforcers have arrested a dangerous saboteur who attempted to gain entry onto the bridge. This incident may be worthy of your attention. You see, both the saboteur and the circumstances of his capture are rather strange. You cannot tell if Vigdis sounds baffled or worried. I think it would be reasonable for Magnus Pascal to take a look at him as well.
What is so unusual about the saboteur and the way he was captured?
The thing is, Lord Captain, the saboteur is most definitely a tech priest. He found his way aboard the ship and penetrated all our security systems with staggering ease. Both his ability to communicate with machine spirits and the combat potential of his augmentations are extraordinary. Nevertheless, the enforcers managed to capture him. During the arrest, the intruder, he offered no resistance at all. Instead, he asked for an audience with the great machine spirit. When he realized the enforcers had no idea what he was talking about, he asked to meet with you. I considered it necessary to appraise you of the situation.
The infiltration of a rogue trader's ship operated by authorized ancient seers casts doubt on my tech comrade's stability. If he is indeed my tech comrade, that is. Regardless, I request permission to communicate with the captive. Very well, I will speak to him.
Understood, Lord Captain. The saboteur will be brought to you.
Ma'am. Reminds me of Chapter 2, the good old days where you couldn't go anywhere without something happening. The group of servitors whose movements are suspiciously well synchronized, I almost said circumcised, stares at the towering prisoner. You do not need to hear them speak to recognize Nomos, who has seen fit to intend the interrogation. The captured man, if he can be called that, looks positively gigantic next to the enforcers at his side. Deadly-looking metal gleams dimly beneath his faded crimson robes. His hands are folded obediently, and his mechandendrites are perfectly still. I greet the master of this vessel cathedral and offer my humble apologies for this unbidden intrusion. My apologies to you as well, brother. The interloper inclines his head in the direction of the frowning Pascal. The prisoner turns slightly and looks straight at Nomos, observing servitors. Nomos is observing servitors. And, of course, I must beg forgiveness from you, Great Spirit. It was not my intent to desecrate your temple. Before I accept your apologies, tell me who you are and why you infiltrated my ship. My name, if it matters, is Asclepius, formerly a computer general of the Cognisis fleet, now a liber recluse with the status of Malatek.
Malteks are exiles whose ideas have not crossed the line of heresy, yet have come close to it. They are removed from the fleet structure to give them a chance to see the folly of their ways, and prevent sedition from spreading. Pascal's voice sounds unusually alarmed. All of that is trivial. My past is nothing but a set of archive data. My lost status is a part replacement string in the long chronicle of the Cognisus fleet. I came not as the priesthood's messenger, but as a faithful disciple of the most holy Amernat. My brother once served as the Engineer Prime on this ship. Asclepius gestures around him reverently. He was an adherent of the school of discontinuing the cycle. As am I. It has spread that far. It is difficult to discern Pascal's emotions from his tone. I know that my brother perished, but before he did, he sent me a message that told of a journey embarked upon by Theodora von Valancius, a journey through a dimensional gate, an artifact more ancient than humanity itself, and toward worlds unknown. The blessed Amernat was with her. There, upon those dark worlds, he witnessed a great miracle, the birth of a machine spirit of incalculable might. My brother believed that the spirit then fell aslumber within this ship like a child in a cradle, not responding to lowly pleas. That was the purpose of my pilgrimage, to reach the ship where my brother died, the ship upon whose decks the blessed Amernat had walked, and prostrate myself before the Great Spirit. Amernat traveled on my ship. Yes, he did. My brother's words were on this were clear. Years ago, Amernat was part of the rogue trader Theodora's inner circle before they parted ways. Tell me more about Theodora's journey. My knowledge of it is scarce. My brother suspected that his memory, along with the memory of all who might have known the details, had been purposefully modified. He saw it as a sign that the journey had revealed a great truth, and that there were those who did not wish to see that truth brought to light. All that he conveyed to me was that Theodora had reached worlds unlike any the people of the Coronis Expanse had ever seen. There she unearthed a great treasure of technology, one that Amernat had the privilege of experiencing. What do you know about this great spirit, and is it Nomos by any chance? I clicked on the wrong one. Does the name Nomos mean anything to you? Nothing. He has not come to know us yet. He will if you let him, Ophelia. We know, we sense that his words are about us, that the story he has told is our story. What do you know about this great spirit? It is a great miracle, the Omnissiah's breath meant to help us discontinue the cycle. It was born of the treasure that Amernat and Theodora discovered upon the dark worlds. Yet even a being so glorious needs attendants and guides, and as long as the Cognisus fleet is racked by schism, and my brothers and sisters suffer defeats without end, there is no one to aid the spirit. That is why I came here. You are strong, yet you let yourself be caught. I took a vow that I would never inflict physical harm upon lay people. The Omnissiah grants us the power of the true flesh for a purpose other than damaging the frail and blind creatures that are all who have not yet tasted his knowledge. I have made my decision regarding your fate. Whatever it is, I will accept it. As will I, and yet I plead that my brother be shown leniency. His story initializes thought. We ask you to keep him for us. Nomos' servitors speak up suddenly in the faintest of whispers. Your actions have caused no harm, and so I shall not harm you. You are free. You may stay on my ship if you so choose. I could not ask for more. All I wish is to remain in these halls and observe in reverence the Great Spirit's deed. Let the cycle be discontinued. Nomos' servitors turn their heads up to you and nod all at once in what can be interpreted as an expression of gratitude. Great. Good talk, team. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand aside. No need to crowd around. Governor Drivestem will take care of everything. This is ridiculous. Such a thing happening right in the Rogue Trader's palace. This is the foyer in front of it, but, you know, something clearly went down. Hi, I have a Space Marine now. Please do not be alarmed, especially or by the guy holding a sword. You're confronted by the sight of dead bodies at the entrance to the palace. The corpses have been hauled into a pile. Doesn't really look like it, but okay. Some are dressed in the uniforms of palace wardens, while others are arrayed in clothing typical of the Dragonist nobility. Upon seeing you, the young enforcer stands at attention and swallows noisily. His voice trembles as he says, Your ladyship, we're honored by your presence. What is this mess? You see, your ladyship, these people wanted to attack... The warden clears his throat. Second Lieutenant of the Palace Guard, Elam Waite, reporting. Shortly before you arrived, we averted an assassination attempt on the Rogue Trader. The palace soldiers detected intruders and engaged them in combat. Examine. Observation. There are rare, high-functioning servitor specimens present among the expired units. Such specimens are traditionally bestowed upon the loyal noble houses that are the most loyal to the sacred fellowship of the Adeptus Mechanicus. The augmetics of the deceased do differ from the implants ordinary people wear. Their intricate construction makes it clear that the deceased were not ordinary humans. Abelard frowns. As far as I know, House Gaprak has received such servitors from the Crimson Priesthood as gifts in the past, although this is my first time seeing one myself. Where is the Court Chancellor, Clementia Versarian? I think she's with the rest of House Versarian, detained in the throne room. That is, detained in the throne room? Weird sentence. Governor Drivestem's gathered all the Dragonist nobility there to pronounce a guilty verdict against House Versarian. Why is the governor not here to greet the Rogue Trader? Oh, I do not know, your ladyship. Perhaps he is. The guard throws a fearful gaze at Abelard. You could probably find him in the throne room where the governor intends to put House Versarian on trial. I must take my leave. The bodies bear multiple wounds. It's evident they died recently. The cheap and tacky clothes of the assailants are smeared with blood.
Let us not dawdle.
I should level Abelard up. It only seemed right to bring him... Oh, fuck me, dude. Do I think he's going to be involved in combat? It's impossible to tell, isn't it? So I'd better do it.
This unit's augmentations bear decorative elements not specified in the captures.
Let me through. I have an appointment with the Chancellor Clementia Versarian. My apologies, my lord, but you cannot go any further. Governor Drivestem's orders. This is ridiculous. I shall complain. Where is your manager? Move over, let her ladyship the Rogue Trader through. I humbly beg your pardon, your ladyship. Your ladyship, please, this way. Your ladyship, 'tis an honor. Governor Urban Drivestem seems to materialize out of thin air. So suddenly does he emerge from the crowd. I regret that such unfortunate circumstances have occasioned the Rogue Trader's visit to the capital. Clementia tries to take a step towards you, but the warden nearby stops her. Her face is veiled with fear and wariness. Your ladyship, you are here. Please, you must hear us out. The Rogue Trader is undoubtedly here to listen to the testimony of each and every one of us, and to punish the traitors. The governor's words directed at Clementia are harsh, but they are echoed by the scornful sneers and whispers of the assembled nobles. We've known each other for many decades now, and we've had our fair share of disagreements, but do you really think my flesh and blood would trample upon the very definition of honor and loyalty? Abelard's voice is quivering with rage. The governor sweeps his gaze over Abelard, then replies, a faint shadow of a doubt in his voice.
We have evidence implicating them, Abelard. I'm sure that her ladyship will arrive at a fair ruling. What are the charges against House Versarion? Disruption of logistical lines, bribery of adeptus administratum officials, document forgery, and organization of heretical insurrections. On top of the evidently devastating economic impact this has had on your protectorate, these criminals' acts have impeded the delivery of the imperial tithe, which, in turn, has drawn the administratum's attention. An esteemed member of the Adeptus Arbites is expected to arrive on Dragonis shortly, and before they do, we are obligated to identify and punish those responsible. Arbites are, Judge Dredd, basically. Clementia, I wish to hear your account. Your ladyship, House Versarion denies all charges laid against it. Clementia glances at the governor with defiance. These last few months have indeed been trying for Dragonis, but we have done our best to remedy the situation. My family's every effort was focused on stabilizing the capital's logistics and economy, so much so that we failed to notice the web of intrigue unfolding behind our backs. What happened on Dragonis in my absence? When we caught wind of the rumors of your disappearance, we patiently awaited news of your return. But then Dragonis was struck by a series of terrible events. The first was the sabotage of logistics that hampered shipments. Then mass unrest spread across the entire planet, and the minor noble houses began squabbling among themselves, trying to pin the blame on their rivals. We took great pains to calm them down and managed to quash the revolt, though not without some outside help, unfortunately. These events have also been overshadowed by the... I'm ashamed to even say it aloud in front of you, your ladyship. The rumors circulating among the higher houses. The governor stammers, then takes a deep breath. Some were calling for Theodora's true heir to be installed as the head of your house, Conrad Voigtver. Not all of your subjects have forgotten his past efforts for the benefit of the trade protectorate. Drivestem stops talking, watching you with a tense expression. When the investigation was launched, the evidence led us to the Versarians. Why are there dead bodies at the entrance to my palace? Your ladyship, I humbly beg your pardon. Drivestem bows once again, trying to placate you. You see, right before your arrival, the palace guard discovered a plot to assassinate you. Fortunately, the malefactors were disposed of before they could cause you any harm. Drivestem, you aren't accusing one of Dragonis' leading noble houses of treason without airtight evidence, are you? Of course I have evidence, your ladyship. The investigation has established that members of the Versarion family, which is responsible for both Dragonis' fleet and its logistics, used their contacts and influence to forge a host of documents in order to undermine the planet's supply routes and economy, thus fomenting unrest among the inhabitants. Allow me to introduce my son, Cornelius. The governor points to a lanky young man standing beside him. He bows curtly, but avoids meeting your eye. Cornelius holds a prestigious position at the Administratum Palace, and it is thanks to him that we managed to identify and trace the entire chain of forged documents. The investigation led us to the perpetrators, who admitted to acting on the orders of members of House Versarion. It was they who were intent on spreading the idea of restoring the tithe of the rogue trader to their true heir. Noticing the close attention of the rogue trader, the young man averts his gaze. His long face is sweating, and he presses his dry lips together tightly in a thin line. He seems afraid of something. Do you support the governor's accusations? The aristocrats in attendance exchange glances, the noble lords averting their gazes and the noble ladies hiding behind the fans. No one is willing to be the first to answer. Over his many years of service, Governor Drivestem earned Theodora's trust, and he holds his high office for a reason. Sauerback's tone is stern and imperious. On behalf of House Sauerback, I support his accusations. My apologies, your ladyship, but I wish to speak too. Regina looks into your eyes with a tender half-smile, then turns her gaze on her husband. Of course I agree with my husband. Governor Drivestem would not press charges against anyone if he were not absolutely certain of the authenticity of the evidence he had unearthed.
I think anyone here would agree that anyone who ever doubts the authority of the true rogue trader should be prosecuted. I am sure, your ladyship, that you will eradicate the scourge of heresy from your domain. Regina bows to you deferentially while maintaining eye contact with you. Your ladyship, Drevner Drivestem has always faithfully served the rogue traders of House von Valancius and concerned himself with the future of your trade dynasty, and so House Gaprak thinks his charges against Versarion to be sound. The augmetics hide Torina's emotions, but his voice sounds slightly timorous. I humbly ask you allow me to speak in defense of my family's honor. The evidence provided by the governor is utterly false. I cannot refute it, but I can say with confidence that no one from my family has ever tried to forge documents in the Adeptus Administratum, let alone undermine the economy of your capital. Sabotaging logistics, riots, conspiracy. The case appears to be flimsy. I wish to learn more before I make my final decision. As you wish, your ladyship. The governor inclines his head in a stiff bow. Speak for me when you are ready to announce your verdict. Thank you for your willingness to help, Lord Captain. I'm certain that all the charges are false, and I would be grateful for your help in exposing them as such. I think you should speak to everyone present, the noble lords and ladies.
Rise to the
Alright.
top, or get left in the dust.
Gaprak, you're first. The lords and ladies, sumptuously dressed in the colors of House Gaprak, are standing in a half-circle around Torina and her son Vicent? The bodies and faces of almost every member of the dynasty are covered in large ornate augmetics. Torina Gaprak curtsies to you. Her mechanical voice sounds distant and indifferent. Greetings, your ladyship. May the Omnissiah grant you understanding. With a click, her visor oculars swivel into the seneschal. Abelard, it must be difficult for you to be here under these circumstances, with your house standing accused of such a grave crime. My family, Lady Torina, is not yet found guilty of anything. That verdict is for the rogue trader to reach. Do you think the accusations against the Versarion family are true? I would not take such a responsibility upon myself and rule on their guilt, your ladyship. I do think Governor Drivestem's accusations are worthy of consideration, however. In your opinion, which nobles might have a reason to be party to such a conspiracy? She thinks for several moments before replying. Pardon my bluntness, your ladyship, but I will answer truthfully. It could be anyone. Greed, fear, and ideals can drive even the most loyal subjects to do the unthinkable. I've examined the bodies of the assailants that were killed today. All of them were high-functioning servitors. Such servitors are only employed by families close to the Adeptus Mechanicus. Isn't that so? It's impossible to read Torina's emotions in her heavily augmented face, but her sudden turn toward her family betrays her confusion and surprise. Perplexed whispers bounce from one family member to another. Impossible. We came in by ourselves, without any servitors. We know nothing about it. Oh, I'm sure none of you do. I would be shocked if you answered differently. But you've got to admit it makes you all look pretty fucking sus. Your ladyship, thank you for informing us of this. You are absolutely right. My house has indeed been endowed with high-functioning servitors, a blessing for those who revere the Omnissiah. But today, none of our house members were accompanied by them. Vicent, I wish to speak to you. Ready to serve, your ladyship. How may I help you? What do you make of the charges against the Versarion family? Could they truly be guilty? I do not think I can doubt the validity of the accusations, but Vincent's voice trails off and he seems to retreat into himself for a moment before continuing. He takes a deep breath. I'm also not sure that House Versarion had a reason to betray you, your ladyship. I do not know of any instance where their loyalty to you and the Emperor was anything less than unwavering. I know you care for Astartia Versarion. Are you prepared to watch her die? Vicent's jaw augmetic screeches slightly. The young man scrutinizes his mother and other family members for a few moments. What? Where? There's something you ought to know, your ladyship. Today I noticed one of my family members to be in an odd, uncharacteristic mood. Halan Gaprak is my parental second cousin, once removed. May the Emperor save his soul. Usually reserved and self-possessed, today he was frantic and anxious, fidgeting with a small piece of paper and seemingly looking for someone to no avail. When I last saw him, he was headed to the entrance hall where the altars are. Perhaps you should talk to him. That will do. I shall take my leave. Alright, where is this person? Gallon Gaprak. Servant. Who are you? A finely dressed man of middle years is kneeling in front of the altar, his palms folded in prayer close to his face. The implant-free parts of his skin are a stickly blue color. The nobleman does not react to your presence. He does not lift his head. He does not blink. He does not even breathe. Only when you draw closer do you realize that he is dead. Oh. Abelard looks at the man, his eyes grim. The colors of House Gaprak. I do not believe he decided to take his own life in such an extravagant way. As far as I know, there's a warden post here, but I do not see any wardens. The seneschal looks around. There's no one to ask about what happened here or with whom the man spoke before he died. I'd like to ask Urband where the palace guards suddenly disappeared to. Examine. You closely examine the body. You cannot identify any wounds or any other obvious causes of death. Pascal's visor emits a series of clicks. He points to the dead man's neck without hesitation. I am registering an injection site. There are no visible wounds on the body, but near the gold-trimmed collar you notice a tiny puncture in his blue skin, likely a wound caused by a thin needle. What are our odds here? Not great. Death found this man in the middle of a holy prayer to the Emperor, but it's impossible to determine the cause of such a quick and eerie death. Search his pockets. You discover a secret pocket in the lining of the dead man's luxurious jacket. You find a folded piece of paper inside, hanging behind a handkerchief embroidered with the initials HG. Look around. You're almost certain that wardens are usually stationed nearby, but their post is empty. Where have they gone? This would be an excellent question to put to Governor Drivestem. Alright, what's the note say? Make sure the rogue trader is attacked by someone loyal. It should appear as if it was all staged to let the Versarian family escape. This is the last assignment. Soon your debt will be paid off in full.
I always
Interesting.
have a backup plan.
Is that the person we were supposed to speak to? Hello? Your ladyship, are you leaving already? But everyone's waiting eagerly for your verdict. I humbly ask you to speak to Governor Drivestem before leaving. Alright, I guess that was... I just immediately forgot the guy's name, if I'm to be honest with you. Okay. Where's Urband?
Is there money to be made?
As that strikes me as one of the most important things at the moment. Urband. Governor Drivestem is surrounded by his retinue, who are all dressed in expensive gowns and finery. The matching color schemes of their outfits and striking physical resemblance among them suggest they all come from one family. Your ladyship, thank you for giving this case your undivided attention. The governor bows and the rest hasten to follow suit. Okay, and I thought this was the guy we wanted to talk to about this. I wish to hear your reasoning again. What makes you think the Versarians are behind the plot against me? As soon as the logistical and economic problems gave rise to the initial rumors, we tried to find the person responsible for spreading the calls for Voigtger's return. The investigation showed that some of the documents inside the Adeptus Administratum were forgeries. We can thank my son Cornelius for such astute observations. Your ladyship, a slender young man bows to you awkwardly and hastily licks his dry lips. I assure you that my humble person is undeserving of your attention. Cornelius holds a prestigious position at the Administratum Palace, and it was he who discovered the errors leading to disrupted logistics. It's also thanks to him we found the perpetrators of the forgeries, who admitted to acting on the orders of House Versarion. All of the assailants were high-functioning servitors. Such servitors are only employed by families close to the Adeptus Mechanicus. High-functioning servitors? Drivestem ponders this, rubbing his chin with his thumb. Such servitors are indeed rare, and the Gapraks do have them in their service, but this could have been done intentionally with an eye to confusing you. Anyone with a desire and sufficient funds can hire them. Right. So you're admitting openly that people could be lying. Tell me about your son, Drivestem. Thank you for your interest, your ladyship, but I'm not worthy of it. The governor's son bows and stands still as he nervously stares down at the floor. Son, do show due respect. Forgive him, your ladyship. This is the first time he has had the honor of attracting the attention of the rogue trader. Tell me more about your job, Cornelius. What do you do? I manage the documents and records related to the economy of Dragonus. You probably know how scrupulous the workers of the Adeptus Administratum are. I am afraid that a more detailed explanation of my duties would mirror the administrative processes of the Administratum, too long and overly detailed. Cornelius tries to look you in the eye, but it is clearly hard for him to do so. How did you manage to find the forged documents in the bureaucratic hell that is the Administratum? When compiling reports on last cycle supply chain, I noticed inaccuracies and discrepancies in the figures. With the help of the other clerks, I managed to find several other documents. Cornelius stammers and swallows noisily. A comprehensive data analysis has shown that the discrepancies were caused by intentional tampering with the data, thus leading to some logistical problems that were practically unsolvable. Father and I have managed... I'm guessing this is the wrong text box. Father and I have managed to single out the Administratum clerks responsible for tampering with the data. Following a heated interrogation, they confessed that they were following the orders of someone from House Versarion. Everything was supposed to look as though they were the ones suffering losses from the logistical and economic problems. But does House Versarion have access to the Adeptus Administratum? There's no conceivable way that they could do all of this in a place where they do not hold any power. Before replying, the governor's son nervously adjusts his expensive frock coat. I think the right of money can open any door. Cornelius, what is the true reason for your nervousness? The young man's pupils suddenly dilate. He stands at attention and replies to you in one breath. This is the first time I've spoken face-to-face with the rogue trader. I'm afraid of saying something wrong or forgetting something important. He is afraid. Yes, there's enough fear in this runt to feed a small squad. The governor closely watches his son. His tone changes, now sounding strict and curt. Do you wish to tell the Lord Captain anything else? This is not also coercion? Well, let's just do the one that's the skill check, though, since it's 100%. You're speaking to a rogue trader, and my patience is running out. You see the flash of terror in Cornelius's eyes as he stares at your hand on your weapon. He speaks quietly and confusedly without raising his head. Forgive me, your ladyship. I can't do it anymore. This lie's gone too far, and I can no longer control it. The truth is that all the logistical problems were caused by a single error in the numbers. My mistake. What? Urbend looks genuinely shocked and enraged. When I discovered my mistake, it was almost impossible to restore the supply lines. Then I was approached by someone who said they were a friend. They did not give me their name, and I never saw their face. They promised to fix the problem. All I had to do was pretend that the Versarians were responsible for the mistake, and as for the rest of the evidence, they promised to arrange it all, and... Cornelius is suffocating with fear, unable to speak. Urbend curls his hands into fists, the knuckles turning white. What have you done? How could you? Your ladyship. He suddenly turns to you as if trying to shield his son. This is my fault. I trusted my son and have failed you in doing so. I beg you have mercy. Abelard shakes his head. And you called my family's honor into question, Urbend. Nevertheless, I harbor no desire to kick a man when he's down. Lord Captain, the confession you've obtained means that House Versarian can now be cleared of all charges. True, undeniably so, but we have to find the other party that's involved still. But we still do not know who was behind the forgeries, the riots, the plot, and the assassination attempt. Someone's committing their foul deeds and sowing chaos right under your subjects' noses. To leave that stone unturned would be dangerous. What is this friend that approached you, Cornelius? How did the two of you communicate? By letter. I received a letter out of the blue one day. It was unsigned, but the person writing already knew about my erroneous calculations. They offered to help me cover up my misdeeds, and in return I would name the Versarians as the one who would sabotage the supply lines. All I had to do was gather together some documents and reports that were listed in one of the letters. That, and keep my mouth shut. How did they know you made this mistake? Was someone really watching that closely? Like, you know? They need to have actually found out about this somehow, but I'm guessing you weren't telling very many people. I sentence you to death immediately. Urban, your son has found the courage to admit his mistake. I will try and find some compassion for him in my heart. Thank you, your ladyship. The governor bows low and then gives his son a look full of bitterness and frustration. And as for your position, I think you will be reassigned to a role requiring less responsibility. I shall return to you later. Okay. Well, we solved that conundrum. Next.
Always keep my options open.
Speak now.
Let's go back over to Gaprak. Do you have anything new to say now that I've done that? Yeah. No, yeah, this is the same. I discovered a body. A member of your house, right here in my palace. He died kneeling in prayer. Tarina covers her mouth with her hand in surprise, and turning to her family, looks for someone among them. Helen? It can't be. Helen, was it? Tell me about him, Tarina. Helen is one of the lower-ranking members of House Gaprak. Despite his advanced age, he never held high office, but he was forever striving to better his position, even beyond his abilities. Many members of my house struggled to cope with the misfortune that befell Kivia Gamma and our family. Some members could not reconcile themselves to our new position. Helen was one of them. What could have happened to him? Tarina's visor oculars are fixed on the floor, her fingers restlessly clenching the fabric of her dress. Tarina, the time to keep silence long gone. The future of the Von Valancius dynasty and your house are both at stake now. We lost Kivia Gamma, a truly devastating blow to every member of House Gaprak. I lost all hope for the future, and my kin lost their sense of purpose. We needed time to recover and chart a new course for ourselves. We were, and still are, more than capable of doing that. But I will not deny it. The other houses have offered us their assistance, for their own self-serving ends. Perhaps Helen decided to take one of them up on their offers behind my back. The seneschal bows ever so slightly and speaks so quietly that only you can hear him. Lord Captain, the Gapraks, all or perhaps only some of them, are definitely involved, and I suspect that they were not behind the plot against you. Helen Gaprak could be nothing more than a puppet in the hands of a deft puppet master. We must expose whoever that is if we're to prevent the pestilence of heresy from spreading any further. What do you suggest we do? Interrogate the heads of the Drivestem and Sourback houses. One of them has been pulling the strings here. Once we uncover new evidence, announce that the guilty party will be publicly executed. Before you pronounce the verdict, I suggest focusing on each house in your indictment speech, and I shall observe them. I have known all these people far longer than you have. I know all their gestures, habits, behavioral quirks. I'm sure I'll be able to determine which of them was responsible for the riots based on their behavior. Understood. Well, no, we already spoke to you. I just saw a different name and was like, you. Sourback. Before bowing, Sourback scrutinizes you with a bitter, judgmental look. Is that so? Would you like me to shoot you right now, then? Your ladyship. Hetka Sourback, looking like a younger copy of his father, stands a slight distance close to his mother. An expensive yet understated dress serves to highlight the dazzling beauty of Macarius's wife, Regina Sourback. Oh, this is the NTR family, alright. The Sourback patriarch's eyes are trained upon Mara's eye. It seems as if the air has grown heavy. With visible effort, Sourback turns his gaze back to you.
Your ladyship, I'm delighted that you've chosen to grace us with your attention. Do you really believe the Versarians are guilty? Certainly, Saurabach replies without hesitation. Governor Drivestem possesses proof of their guilt, and they have no means by which to refute it. Even if I were to entertain the idea that the Versarians are being framed, how much longer would their houses have lasted anyway? If it is so ill-prepared for treachery. He addresses Abelard with a slightly mocking tone. My advice to House Versarian would be to not appeal to the rogue trader for help, but to instead simply stop, accept their fate, and not make matters worse for themselves. I cannot remember Ophelia von Valencia seeking your advice on what House Versarian should do in this situation. Pay attention, Macarius. Focus on the rogue trader's questions. Apart from the Versarians, who could have a motive... Who, apart from the Versarians, could have had a motive to conspire against me? House Drivestem, wishing to expand their clout. House Gaprak, who lost their influence after the Kivia Gamma incident. Saurabach looks back at his family, then turns to you again. House Sauerbach, whose patriarch is too direct in his communication with the rogue trader. Anyone could have a reason to conspire against you, and equally they could have none. It is not a question of motive, but of loyalty. Which of your subjects have sworn an oath of loyalty to you? Whose sincerity do you doubt? What a stupid response, you fucking clown. What do you mean motive is irrelevant, huh? What do you mean this isn't a question of motive? Of course it's a question of motive, you fucking idiot. They're committing high treason. You need a pretty good motive to do that. Anyway, time. Despite Saurabach's attempts to suppress his revulsion, the presence of inhumans in your retinue undoubtedly reflects his fervent desire to eliminate the enemies of humanity. There's also a fucking space marine right there. Do you have nothing to say about that? There's a biblically accurate angel in front of you. Do my companions distress you, Saurabach? Saurabach's face turns red, his furious gaze trained upon you. Free-flowing rage boils in every word he says. The rogue trader is the servant of the Emperor and one of humanity's best. By surrounding yourself with depraved Xenos who scorn the very exceptionalism of humankind, you teeter on the brink of heresy, and no privilege granted by the Emperor can blind others to that fact. The thought of existing in the same sector as Xenos is revolting, but their presence in your retinue, here in the capital city of House von Valancius's trade dynasty, enrages me. To have Xenos sullying the streets of this planet after what we endured, and under the protection of the rogue trader, no less. Saurabach takes a deep breath and exhales noisily. His rage subsides, but his burning gaze remains fixed on you. With a pained and distressed expression, Regina glances at her husband, her hands worrying the ruffles on her dress. I'm honored, Lady Saurabach. Noticing your gesture, Regina readily extends her delicate hand, her nails long and manicured. Why, how kind of you to say, your ladyship. Burning eyes fixed on you, Saurabach straightens and leans forward, trying to partially occupy the space between you and his wife. Set against the doom and gloom of current events and your husband's dour family, you look especially dazzling today, Regina. A flirtatious spark flares in the beautiful lady's eyes. Really, your ladyship, I am glad to hear this from the rogue trader, especially today. Macarius almost barks, each word striking like a hammer strikes metal. Regina, step away from her ladyship. Regina's high voice almost breaks into a shriek. She interrupts her husband, retorting defiantly and disobediently. Oh, throne preserve you, Macarius, stop being so jealous and making a scene over nothing, just because a crude blockhead like you lacks the refinement and courtesy of Ophelia von Valancius. Oh, fuck, we're having a domestic right in the middle of the fucking palace, dude. Regina's voice drops to a whisper so that only you can hear. His bile poisons the air around him wherever he goes. Once he gets something into his head, he hairs off to remove the heads of others, just to prove that he's in the right. Hairs off. Mm-hmm. Your unveiled hatred for me is so obvious, Sourback. It is grounds enough to charge you with heresy. I am hearing this from you, the Emperor's servant who flouts all that is sacred, the person who seems to think the laws of the Imperium are meaningless. Macarius, now is a time when you would do well to stop and not make matters worse for yourself. The assailants sent to the palace were rare, high-functioning servitors. Do you think the Gapraks could have been behind the attack? Sourback looks away briefly and replies to you with a curt laugh. I've always thought Tarina too weak to participate in such risky ventures, but it seems I was wrong about her. I thought it was all a matter of loyalty, and you're saying that her loyalty's in question now? Well, out of nowhere, alright. I discovered a dead body in my palace. A man of House Gaprak was killed while praying to the Emperor. He had this note on him. Do you know anything about it? Macarius looks at the note without taking it from your hands and replies without hesitation, No, I know nothing about this note. You replied awfully quickly there, brother. Hetke, can we talk to you separately? No. Regina? No. Alright,
Rise to the top.
just
Get
Versarians
left in the
now
dust.
then. Oh. Okay. As you draw closer, the wardens step aside, bowing respectfully, allowing you to approach the Versarian family. Clementia, tired and slightly disheveled, is the first to bow her head to you in deference. Several men and women behind her follow suit. Your ladyship, the woman stammers as if lost for words, accept my most humble apologies for failing to greet you properly, and my thanks for agreeing to speak to me before making your final decision. The charges brought by the governor are severe, but I can only assure you of this and swear on my own honor we're not guilty of the crimes House Versarian's being accused of. Clementia. A hint of sorrow creeps into Abelard's voice, belying his stern facade. You were acting head of the family. You were supposed to take care of each and every family member, and now you're being accused of treason and collusion against the rogue traitor, and the entire family is facing death. How could you let this happen? Are you truly guilty? Be honest. I will not tolerate lies, even though I know the answer at this point. Clementia, if you know that a member of the family is guilty of the crimes you are being accused of. Abelard, it is your family too, you know. The woman's words burn with defiance. My apologies, I should not lose my composure. No member of House Versarian is involved in a conspiracy against her ladyship. Honor and loyalty are not something we take lightly, and we know whom we serve. The governor claims you forged documents in the Administratum. The fleet is the primary remit of House Versarian. It is our responsibility. Logistics and supply routes are another area of our responsibility. We have no direct influence on the inner workings of the Adeptus Administratum. The first large-scale deliveries were cancelled after quantities of food were miscalculated by clerks in the Administratum. Then we were faced with incorrect weather data and a meager fuel budget. It was clear the cause of all these problems was the calculations performed in the Administratum, in one way or another. But no matter how many times we asked, we could not ever obtain any clarification on the matter. The attackers were high-functioning servitors, ones that looked closer to ordinary humans. Do you know anything about them? Servitors, is that so? Clementia crosses her arms and furrows her brow, deep in thought. I have encountered servitors that were indistinguishable from normal augmented humans, but only once. They were accompanying several members of House Gaprak. If you're not guilty, who is? Who stands to gain from framing you? Anyone, really. I do like how everybody said the same thing here. A very uniform answer. Clementia replies with a bitter laugh. The other houses consider us unworthy of our position, and many would jump at the chance to get rid of us and gain control over what was once our domain. The planet's fleet and logistics, at the very least. Lady Theodora chose to grant noble status to House Versarian, but the other houses, which had served in the Expanse for millennia, did not welcome the decision. It's led to some difficulties. I want to find out what is going on here and who the real mastermind behind all this is. Where should I start? I'm afraid I cannot be of much help. Talk to the representative of the other houses, eavesdrop on their retinue. Perhaps you'll hear something unusual. I discovered the body of Halan Gaprak in this palace. He had a note on him. Do you know anything about it? The younger members of the Versarian family crowd around to examine the note in Clementia's hand. All present are beset with worry and bewilderment.
I'm not sure if it's relevant, but perhaps you should know. Since the fall of Githia Gamma, House Gaprak has been faring poorly, to say the least. They've been looking for ways to enhance their influence and to improve their lot, including asking for help from the other noble houses. They've not approached us, of course. It is shameful to seek help from those you consider your inferiors, you understand. But perhaps the Drive Stems and Sourbacks can tell you more about this matter. Alright, let's just do one loop around again to make sure no new dialogue options have opened up. You're the wrong one. I found a dead body in the palace. A member of House Gaprak was slain in front of an altar. Do you know anything about it? A member of House Gaprak was killed in the palace. The governor's eyes bulged in surprise. And no one noticed. But how? There are wardens posted at every altar. There was no one near the deceased. The wardens had left their post. Did you order them to do so? Emperor forbid, your ladyship. The governor helplessly throws his hands in the air as if signifying his powerlessness. Your negligence is stunning, Urband. An assassination attempt followed by a mysterious death, and yet here you are, oblivious to everything. The rogue traitor can justify accusing you of allowing a noble to be killed in the palace and of failing to even notice. It may be so, but it is for the rogue traitor to accuse me of negligence, not you. The governor addresses you once more. Your ladyship, accept my deepest apologies for my imprudence. Nothing matters more to me than my honor, and I shall send the servants to deal with all this immediately. I don't really think it's this guy. He seems too loyal. I'm thinking it's gotta be Sourback, honestly. Did you see Macarius Sourback today before I arrived? Macarius? I did not see him myself, but perhaps... The governor turns around and asks his family, have any of you seen him today? The nobles talk quietly among themselves, and then a middle-aged woman with a tall, extravagant hairstyle replies to you, I think my sister and I saw him sitting on the bench some distance away from the palace's entrance. We think he was accompanied by a gentleman, but forgive us, your ladyship, we could not make out his face. Lead me to that place. Of course, consider it done. Do we really have to actually follow you? Is this really necessary?
Keep your wits about you.
I saw Lord Sourback conversing with someone here, your ladyship.
Was that supposed to be a challenge?
I recognize this bouquet. House Sourback usually serves this wine. Okay. You didn't have anything else. No. Alright, let's talk to Sourback again. Nothing? Alright, Gaprak, you got anything new? No. Okay, I guess we're gonna proceed to the next stage. Let's just check nothing's going on out here. Get the place a once over. Anyone on the balcony? No, okay, we saw this. Just, you know, just making sure.
I always keep my options open.
Not looking like anything else is going on.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
Nope. Alright, I guess we're going to announce our verdict and just hope that Abelard is able to figure it out. Summon everyone, I'm ready to pronounce my verdict. Understood, your ladyship. Allow me to prepare everything. Many faces are watching you, each and every one awaiting the rogue trader's verdict with bated breath. The charges brought by Governor Drivestem were fabricated. House Versarian had nothing to do with the orchestration of the riots or the plot targeting the rogue trader. However, the real perpetrators are here in this very room. The Seneschal nods to you as if urging you to continue, then shifts his piercing gaze to the crowd before him. Ben Drivestem, you've exhibited inexcusable negligence by failing to question the possible involvement of other families beside the Versarians. We've discovered that the attempt on my life was orchestrated by a member of House Gaprak. Oh wait, these are... Oh no, there was a second one for Drivestem, so I thought there were multiple here.
The governor closes his eyes, fear and shame getting the better of him. Some faces in the crowd look confused and surprised, but you see more wearing expressions of self-satisfied contempt. Abelard looks from the governor to you and subtly shakes his head as if to say, no, it's not the drive stems pulling the strings here. Well, we should do this anyway. Ben Drivestem, you've accused House Versarian of violations that were in truth the result of a grave error committed by your son. The governor closes his eyes, fear and shame getting the better of... Yeah. Tarina Gaprak, a member of your family, orchestrated an assassination attempt against me, here in my own palace. And though he has already been found dead, his act is reason enough to forever brand your house as traitors. Mocking whispers creep through the crowd. Tarina is trembling faintly. She still does not raise her head, perhaps out of fear of meeting her fate face to face. The seneschal's hard gaze softens, an elusive gesture visible to only you to convey the message. Tarina Gaprak is guilty only of her own poor judgment. Macarius Sourback, your overt contempt toward me is reason enough to implicate you in this conspiracy. The crowd remains silent, with only their tense, anxious gazes darting back and forth between you and Macarius. Sourback's brow rises higher, and you notice his jaw working nervously. Abelard narrows his eyes and scrutinizes Macarius Sourback and his retinue standing behind him. For a second, his sharp eyes seem to have caught some sight of something, only to lose track of it the next moment. A disappointed sigh tells you it could be a Sourback, but is he really one behind all of this? I know that House Sourback has offered their help to the Gapraks, and the late Hallen Gaprak seem to have accepted the offer. I suspect that you were responsible for his death as well. Sourback furrows his brow and slightly cocks his head. He averts his gaze for the first time, as if trying to remember or make sense of something. You notice some restless movements behind him. Abelard now... I was checking if this was the same thing. Abelard narrows his eyes and scrutinizes Macarius Sourback and his retinue standing behind him. His sharp eyes light up when he catches sight of something important and hidden in the crowd. The seneschal looks at you and nods as if to say, the puppeteer has given himself away. Pronounce the verdict. In the conspiracy against the rogue trader, I find... House Sourback guilty. Seneschal, you may take it from here. Abelard steps forward and stares intently at House Sourback's patriarch. Macarius, I must admit I've always admired your bluntness, but just as I once had to say goodbye to a promotion because of my dislike for intrigue, you and your family might soon say goodbye to your heads. Tell me now, in your blunt fashion, are you loyal to House von Valancius? Sourback narrows his eyes, grimacing. I am loyal, Versarian. Abelard studies Sourback, then suddenly nods. You are not lying, but someone else is. Someone who is poised to destroy both you and your family for her own gain. No, not Regina. Macarius does not have time to respond. Regina, who is standing beside him, raises her arm as if to slap the elderly seneschal. Abelard deftly catches her wrist, stopping her hand right in front of his face. Her dainty hand is adorned with a massive augmetic ring tipped with a thin spike, dripping with venom. Damn it. Sourback shifts his confused gaze from his wife to Abelard, then back again. The stiff arrogance has vanished from his posture. Regina? You? Mother. Upon realizing what has happened, Hetka recoils from his mother. Macarius, your bluntness makes you an open book. When I talked about helping the Gapraks, you had no idea who I was referring to. Your wife, on the other hand, her eyes started shifting like you would not believe. Regina Sourback, you alone betrayed the rogue trader, jeopardizing the prosperity of the von Valancius trade dynasty, and you alone are responsible for your unmasking. Regina, why would you do this? Like the spike
On her ring, Regina's words are dripping with poison and rage. Because Dragonus is serving an impostor. The true heir of the Protectorate bears a different name. When Kunrad appeared on Dragonus, he paid me a visit and opened my eyes to the truth of the situation. Theodora was killed by the one whom would so unwarily taken under her wing. Macarius is too narrow-minded to even consider opposing the rogue trader, even an illegitimate one, so I had to wait for the right moment, and the disappearance of the Lord Captain could not have come at a better time. It was quite simple to trigger a chain of events on Dragonus so that the people remembered Master Voitger's past service. It seems many of your subjects do not actually consider you a worthy successor. Why the Versarians? Because when stripped of all the Seneschal's protections, this house is the weakest one on all of Dragonus, and they are also particularly disliked by the governor's family. It would have been easy to bury the Versarians under accusations of heresy. But you knew that they were my favorite family, didn't you? Right, like, I had their family accompany me at my ceremony, you know? So, if you had chosen one of the other families, I would have just said, fuck them, who cares? Who aided you? There's no way you managed all this on your own. Oh, of course I didn't. I have too many helpers to list them all, but rest assured there are plenty of them, just as there are plenty of people who follow Master Voitger. My death will not change anything. The true rogue trader will come and take his rightful place when the time is right. Why did you kill Halen Gaprak? Halen was a good agent, but he was also a coward. He came to me just before our formidable rogue trader arrived. He was ready to confess everything. I suggested he plead for the Emperor's forgiveness first, and he did. And he did grant him mercy, did he not? I thought could have been something special between us. Regina cocks her head and smiles at you just as sweetly as before. I admit I had my regrets about causing you such difficulties, but what was I to do? Duty calls for us to rein in our most genuine desires, isn't that right, rogue trader? Abelard, the sentence has yet to be carried out. Finish this. Abelard turns his gaze to you. Does the rogue trader condemn only the rotten apple or the entire barrel? I will not exterminate an entire noble line that is loyal to me just because of one traitor. In that case, Regina Sourback shall be subjected to intense interrogation followed by execution. You could just execute her. Torturing her prior doesn't seem necessary, but, you know, I guess do whatever. A ring that fires a single liquefier shot. Contaminates a 3-cell radius, which inflicts 10 toxic damage and applies melting every turn. Meh. Well, that was easy. Just do every dialogue option. Easy. So is that it, or do we have a conclusion lined up for this? By the order of the rogue trader, Regina Sourback is sentenced to death for heresy and crimes against the von Valancius trade dynasty. What the fuck is going on back there? Jesus Christ. Okay. Man, we gotta go through another fucking loading screen now. When the nobles disperse, sated by the bloody performance, Abelard approaches you, his steps firm. Lord Captain, you have my thanks. A rogue trader should not waste time on the matters of her servants and trust that her servants and trustees can resolve, but in this case your intervention was necessary, not just for the sake of my family, but for your trade dynasty as well. Regina Sourback, evidently Kunrad's accomplices, continue to plot against your protectorate. I fear we've not heard the last of such scoundrels. Thanks to you, Lord Captain, House Versarion is saved, although it came close to being wiped out as the result of scheming without an imprudence within. Abelard pauses for a moment, staring off into the distance. Sometimes I think about how much I could teach them. I could ensure they survive in the future without me. What are you going to do now? I need time to reflect upon what has happened and the role I played in it all. I think I will be ready to resume this conversation later when we're back aboard the ship. Okay. We good? Alright. Clementia, do you have anything to say? Apparently not. Alright. Later, losers.